William LeBaron Jenny has been called the father of the American skyscraper. But before that notoriety, he designed commercial and residential buildings, including this one finished in 1872. Although with all the additions and changes, Mr. Jenny might have trouble recognizing the house today. Hi, I'm Jim Wilhelm. That home, which stands here in Moline, was built during the Victorian era. But because of technological advances and lifestyle changes, it's been greatly changed over the years. It was built for the prominent industrialist Charles Deere. Charles Deere was the son of the famed plow designer and manufacturer John Deere. Charles had been thrust into the forefront of the company when his older brother suddenly passed away. And at the age of 21, he helped steer the company through the disastrous economic panic of 1857. This was Charles Deere's library and study. He read mostly classics and books on world history. Just in front of this fireplace was a large desk which faced a set of windows which provided a great view. Built on a bluff above the Mississippi River, Charles and his wife nicknamed the house Overlooked. But it didn't have just a view of the valley. By standing at the window of his study, Charles could keep an eye on the Deere & Company plant which lined the riverbank below the house. Originally, the room ended right here. This was an outside wall. Then in about 1890, when this house was about 20 years old, this wing was added, and it served a dual purpose. First, it provided a private entrance off the main hallway for Deere's business associates. And second, it was a music room. A Kimball pipe organ was installed, which also had a player attachment. Later, one of his daughters would also have a player organ in her house. Above it, to let in more light, is this stained glass dome that came in handy during the holidays as it allowed for a taller than the ceiling tree. A number of the decorative pieces in this room date back to Charles Deere, including this bust of his father, John. It was carved in 1884 by the renowned artist Leonard Wells Volk, just 2 years before John Deere died. Volk is mostly remembered today for his life mask and hand casts of Abraham Lincoln. At the time of this bust, John Deere lived just a couple of blocks away. But it would be in this house that 3 generations of his descendants would reside. Charles and Mary had 2 daughters. The eldest married William Wyman, and they had 2 sons. One of the sons became a famous Broadway producer, whose biggest hit was The Gay Divorcee. The other, named after his grandfather, became the president of Deere & Company. His portrait also hangs in the library. Charles Wyman served overseas during World War I. On the trip home, he met his future wife, who had been with the Red Cross. In 1920, they were married and moved into this house. It was built in 1872, just 7 years after the Civil War. Then, about 20 years later, it underwent a major revision. But it wasn't just this room that was enlarged. This grand living room didn't even exist in the original plans. Back then, a wall divided the space into 2 separate rooms. One of them was used as a ladies' parlor, the other was used by the family. Not only was the wall removed, but the area was pretty much gutted. A new ceiling was added, along with new wall coverings and flooring. Plus, a fireplace was installed on an exterior wall. But for the workmen, it involved far more than just the removal of a wall, because embedded in that wall were 2 fireplaces, one for each parlor, with a shared chimney that went up 3 floors to the roof. But after all those changes, one element of the original design still remained. Above the doorways leading into this new living room are the original arched moldings. Next to the redecorated living room is the most original in appearance room in this house. It's the dining room. Now, remember that this house was built during the Victorian era, and the inspiration for its design came from nature, whose bounty is presented at this table. The walls are covered in canvas on which the designs were hand stenciled and painted. It's interesting to note that the food groupings in each panel are different. Carved into the furniture and the fireplace mantel are leaves and vines expanding the motif throughout the room. The kitchen was located in the basement, keeping the heat and the noise away from the diners. The food was brought up from the basement in a dumbwaiter located in the pantry next door. It's estimated that with the cooking, the housekeeping, the gardening, the carriage tasks, that the domestic staff numbered about 15. Just off the back was a small porch that Charles Deere had converted into a conservatory, with a glass dome and even a small fish pond set in the floor. Its plant life complemented the nature motif of the dining room. Access was gained through a curtain of beads. Shortly after Charles' death, his wife had the conservatory, which by that time was out of fashion, converted into a breakfast room. It was a much more intimate space than the original dining room. But what's even more interesting was the agreement that Mrs. Deere got the contractors to sign. It stated that once the project was completed, she should not be able to distinguish where the old dining room ended and the new addition began. So not only did the contractor have to match the ceiling and the floor, but also the hand-painted canvas walls. The agreement stipulated that if Mrs. Deere could distinguish the difference, the contractor had to redo all the work at his own expense. She also stipulated at the end of the day, the contractors had to stack their tools and very quietly disappear without disturbing anybody. Here on the second floor was a master bedroom, 3 guest rooms, a sitting room, and several bathrooms. And as odd as it may seem, the children's bedroom and the servants' quarters were on the 3rd floor. This was one of the guest rooms, and it's nicknamed the Rose Room. Here the bed is covered with Italian lace and the Aubuchon carpet curved to fit the bay. A bay that was added to the house at the same time the downstairs wall was removed. So what caused this flurry of remodeling? Well, the answer may lie right here, just off the main hallway. Charles Deere loved new technology and gadgets, so he installed an elevator. Well, in 1899, a water heater on the 3rd floor exploded, setting the house on fire. William Wyman, who was married to Charles Deere's daughter, ran up to the 3rd floor to assist the firemen. According to reports, in the smoke and the chaos, he fell against the glass elevator door, which shattered, and he plummeted 3 floors down the shaft. Wyman suffered several broken bones and had some internal bleeding. For a while it was thought he may not survive, but fortunately he made a full recovery. So it was at that time that rather than just repair the damage caused by the fire, they decided that they would remodel and update the entire home, which caused the house to lose some of its Victorian features. One of the rooms visitors comment on the most is this bathroom. When the home was built in 1872, it had indoor plumbing, and this is one of the 3 remaining original bathrooms. It appeared pretty standard, but then after the turn of the century, this apparatus was added. Prior to the 1920s, showers were uncommon in private homes, partly because they were expensive to install, but also because, since they were commonly found in gymnasiums and athletic clubs, they were considered to be for men only and not for the delicate, fairer sex. This unit with the surrounding rib cage was called a needle shower. At the center are the valves for mixing the water and a thermometer to gauge the temperature. Inside the cage, at strategic positions, are shower heads designed to hit the kidney and liver areas. Plus, there are small holes in the tube to emit a fine spray. It's sort of like a mini spa. The spray is thought to be good for the skin and the circulation system. Shower heads massage the internal organs. And up above is an old idea, which is back into vogue in today's more modern homes. It's called a rain shower head. Across the garden is the Carriage house, which was converted to a garage when the horseless carriage came along. The first picture of a car on this property was dated 1906, and it was a Deere Clark model. Charles was a partner in the Clark Automotive Company in East Moline. The upstairs quarters were used to house some of the staff. In fact, during the Wyman time, it was the apartment for their butler and his wife, who was the head chef. Running under the ground is a tunnel connecting the Carriage house to the main house. That tunnel protected the staff from the elements. Then in 1917, a second tunnel was added. It ran 238 feet from the west side of the house down over the bluffs where it connected to an indoor pool. It was a magnificent structure, and it had been placed just over the bluff so it would not interfere with the view of the river valley. Unfortunately, by the 1980s, the pool building had to be razed due to deterioration and vandalism. But this house remains, thanks to Charles Deere's youngest daughter, who lived only about a block away. Eventually, she created a trust by which her house and the one of her father's could be kept open to the public as a cultural arts center. So today, the Deere-Wiman House is not just a static display of how life was in another time, but had become part of the social fabric of Moline. Throughout the year, the home, in conjunction with the Butterworth estate, hosts meetings, lectures, and concerts. For more information about upcoming events or to schedule a tour, go to www.butterworthcenter.com or call 309-743-2701.